I tried the new 2025 method for 30 days, not because I was confident, not because I was strong, but because I was tired of staying the same. I was tired of starting over every Monday, tired of promises that sounded beautiful in my head but never showed up in my life. And one thing I've learned painfully and honestly is this: change does not come when life becomes easy. It comes when staying the same becomes unbearable. The first day was not magical. The first week was not inspiring. In fact, most days felt ordinary, uncomfortable, and slow. But education begins when we understand that real growth rarely announces itself with fireworks. It whispers. It tests your patience. It asks, will you still show up when nobody is watching? And that is where most people fail. Not because they lack talent, but because they underestimate the power of small, repeated actions. This 2025 method was not about doing more. It was about doing better. It taught me that discipline is not punishment. Discipline is saying, I matter enough to keep my word to myself. Every day I followed the process, even imperfectly. I was training my mind before I was training my results. Education is not only about knowledge, it's about behavior. What you repeat, you become. By day 10, nothing had changed on the outside, but something had shifted within me. I stopped negotiating with my excuses. I stopped waiting for motivation to arrive like a guest who was always late. I learned that motivation is unreliable, but meaning is powerful. When you know why you are doing something, you don't need constant encouragement. You build endurance. And here is the truth many people don't tell you: consistency is boring. But consistency is also what builds character. It doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for presence. Even on the days I failed, I returned the next day. Education teaches us that progress is not linear, but commitment must be. Around day 20, results began to appear, quietly, not loudly enough for the world to applaud, but clearly enough for me to believe. My focus improved. My confidence deepened, my self-respect returned, and that's when I realized something powerful. Transformation is internal before it becomes visible. The world may not notice your growth immediately, but you will feel it. By day 30, the results were amazing, not because my life had become perfect, but because I had become stronger. Strong enough to trust the process, strong enough to keep going without validation. Strong enough to understand that the real victory was not the method, but the mindset it built within me. This is not just a speech about a 30-day method. This is an educational reminder that your future is shaped by what you do daily, not occasionally. You don't need a new year, a new mood, or a miracle. You need a decision, followed by discipline, patience, and belief. If you are listening to this and you feel stuck, let me tell you something gently but honestly: you are not broken. You are becoming. And sometimes all it takes is 30 days of choosing yourself, again and again, to realize how powerful you truly are. If you want, I can now. The moment you decide to try again is not dramatic, it is not loud, and most of the time nobody claps for it. This decision rewires your thinking. It teaches your brain resilience. It builds emotional muscle. And slowly, without you even realizing it, you start trusting yourself again. Self-trust is not built by big wins, it is built by keeping small promises, especially when it's uncomfortable. Trying again is not about restarting from zero, it is about restarting with experience. You are wiser now. You know what doesn't work. You know your weaknesses, you know your distractions. That knowledge is power if you use it instead of letting it shame you. Advice often sounds simple, but living it is hard, and the hardest advice to follow is this: do not wait until you feel ready. Readiness is a myth. Action creates readiness. Confidence follows effort, not the other way around. When you decide to try again, you don't need to announce it to the world. You don't need approval. You don't need permission. You just need consistency. One step, one day, one decision at a time. And some days, trying again will simply mean not quitting. It will mean doing the bare minimum when your energy is gone. That still counts. That still matters. Because life changes not when everything goes right, but when you refuse to give up even when things go wrong. Discipline is often misunderstood as restriction, as something harsh, something that takes joy away from life. But in reality, discipline is one of the highest forms of self-love you can practice. It is not about controlling yourself with fear. It is about guiding yourself with respect. When you choose discipline, you are choosing your future over your comfort, your growth over your excuses, and your values over your moods. People wait to feel motivated. But discipline teaches you that you don't need to feel inspired to act with integrity toward your own life. Think about this deeply. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you teach your mind that your words don't matter. And every time you keep a promise, even a small one, you rebuild trust with yourself. Discipline is that daily conversation between who you are now and who you want to become. It is saying, I may not feel like it today, but I respect myself enough to show up anyway. This is educational because it shifts responsibility inward. It teaches that success is not emotional, it is behavioral. Feelings change, moods shift, but disciplined actions create stable results. Discipline does not mean you become robotic or heartless. It means you become intentional. It means you stop letting emotions drive your decisions and start letting values lead your actions. On hard days, discipline becomes your anchor. When life is chaotic, discipline becomes your structure. And structure does not imprison you, it frees you. A disciplined life has less regret, less anxiety, and more clarity because you know where you are going, even when the path feels difficult. Many people say they want freedom, but what they really want is comfort. True freedom comes from self-control. When you control your time, your habits, your reactions, you stop being controlled by circumstances. Discipline teaches you patience. It teaches you to delay gratification. It teaches you that not every desire deserves attention, and not every impulse deserves action. This understanding is powerful because it separates momentary pleasure from long-term fulfillment. There will be days when discipline feels heavy, days when skipping the work feels easier than facing it. But those are the days that matter most. Discipline on easy days builds routine, discipline on hard days builds character. And character is what carries you forward when motivation disappears. Advice sounds simple when spoken, but it becomes life-changing when practiced. Start small. Wake up when you said you would. Finish what you started. Do what you promised, even when no one is watching. Discipline is not about being perfect, it is about being consistent. You will fail, you will slip, and you will have moments of weakness. But discipline teaches you how to recover without self-hatred. It reminds you that falling is human, but staying down is a choice. When you respect yourself enough to get back up and continue, you begin to see yourself differently. You stop seeing discipline as pressure and start seeing it as protection. Because it protects your dreams from your own self-doubt and distractions. Consistency is not exciting, and that is exactly why it is so powerful. It doesn't promise instant results, applause, or overnight success. It asks for patience. It asks for faith when nothing seems to be working. Most people quit in this phase, not because they are incapable, but because they expect progress to be loud. But real transformation happens quietly, in the repetition of small actions that feel insignificant in the moment yet become life-changing over time. When you show up every day, even when the results are invisible, you are planting seeds you cannot see yet. Consistency teaches you one of the most important lessons in life. You don't need to do extraordinary things to create extraordinary change. You need to do ordinary things extraordinarily well. One focused hour a day will always beat one intense week, followed by months of silence. This is educational because it rewires the way you understand effort. It shifts your mindset from chasing motivation to building systems. Motivation fades, systems stay. When you rely on consistency, you stop depending on how you feel and start depending on what you commit to. There will be days when you feel like your effort is pointless. Days when you look at your life and think nothing is changing. This is the danger zone, the moment where consistency is tested. And here is the advice most people need to hear. Do not measure progress too early. Growth has a delay. Just like a plant grows roots before it breaks the surface, your efforts are building strength beneath what the world can see. If you quit too soon, you interrupt the process right before it begins to work. Consistency also builds identity. Every time you repeat a habit, you are casting a vote for the person you are becoming. You stop saying, "I am trying," and start saying, "This is who I am." You become someone who shows up, someone who finishes, someone who doesn't disappear when things get hard. That shift in identity is more powerful than any result, because once you change how you see yourself, your actions follow naturally. Advice often sounds dramatic, but consistency is quiet advice lived daily. It is choosing discipline over drama, progress over perfection. It is understanding that missing one day is not failure, but missing many days because of one mistake is. Consistency teaches forgiveness without quitting. It allows room for being human while still holding standards. That balance is what keeps you going long enough to succeed. People admire results, but they rarely admire the process that creates them. The early mornings, the boring routines, the lonely effort, the repeated failures. All of this is where consistency does its work. You don't need to impress anyone. You need to build something real, and real things take time. When consistency becomes your habit, miracles stop feeling accidental and start feeling earned, because you know you showed up long before anyone noticed. Growth does not begin when everything feels comfortable. It begins the moment you stop defending your excuses. Excuses are subtle. They sound reasonable, they feel protective, and they often wear the mask of logic. You tell yourself you are tired, you are busy, the timing is wrong, the resources are missing, the situation is unfair. And maybe all of that is true. But the uncomfortable truth is this: excuses explain why you haven't moved. They don't change where you are. The day growth begins is the day you stop asking for permission from your circumstances and start taking responsibility for your direction. Most people are not held back by a lack of ability. They are held back by stories they repeat to themselves. Stories about why now is not the right time, why someone else had it easier, why they will start when things improve. But life rarely improves first. Growth demands action before clarity. Advice that transforms lives is simple but painful to accept. No one is coming to save you, not because you are alone, but because your strength is meant to be activated, not replaced. When excuses end, awareness begins. You start seeing where you waste time, where you avoid discomfort, where you choose familiarity over progress. This awareness is not meant to shame you, it is meant to educate you. It teaches you that your habits are shaping your future more than your intentions ever will. Wanting change is not enough. Talking about change is not enough. Planning change is not enough. Growth requires movement, and movement requires decision. Excuses are often emotional: fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of trying and still not succeeding. Ending excuses does not mean fear disappears. It means fear no longer gets to vote. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is choosing progress despite fear. This shift is powerful because it returns control to you. When you stop excusing, you stop postponing your potential. Advice often sounds harsh here, but it is honest. Every excuse you keep is a future you delay. Every time you say, "I'll start tomorrow," you teach your mind to procrastinate instead of act. Growth begins when you replace excuses with adjustments. If you don't have time, you create time. If you don't have energy, you manage your energy. If you don't know how, you learn. This is education in its purest form, learning through responsibility. There will be resistance. Your mind will fight change because familiarity feels safe, even when it is painful. But safety without progress becomes stagnation. Ending excuses is not about being hard on yourself. It is about being honest with yourself. Honest enough to admit where you are, brave enough to move forward anyway. The moment excuses lose their power, your actions gain strength, and that is where real growth begins. Motivation is emotional, and emotio. Ends are unstable. Some days you wake up full of fire, ready to conquer everything. And some days you wake up feeling empty, heavy, and disconnected from your own dreams. If your progress depends on motivation, your growth will always be inconsistent. This is why meaning matters more than motivation. Meaning is what stays when excitement fades. Meaning is what pulls you forward on days when your energy is low and your belief is shaken. When you know why something matters, you don't need to convince yourself every morning to begin. People often ask how to stay motivated, but the better question is how to stay committed when motivation disappears. Commitment is born from meaning. It comes from understanding what is at stake if you quit. It comes from knowing who you hurt when you give up on yourself. Education teaches us that behavior follows belief, and belief is strengthened by purpose. When your actions are connected to something deeper than temporary emotion, discipline becomes easier to maintain. Meaning turns struggle into sacrifice. Without meaning, effort feels like punishment. With meaning, effort feels necessary. This is powerful because it reframes hardship. You stop asking, why is this so hard? And start asking, who am I becoming through this? That shift changes everything. Advice that lasts is not about chasing happiness, it is about choosing alignment. When your actions align with your values, even difficult days feel worthwhile. Motivation makes you start, but meaning makes you continue. Starting is exciting, continuing is lonely. There will be days when nobody supports you, nobody understands your journey, and nobody notices your effort. Meaning becomes your companion in those moments. It reminds you that not all rewards are visible. Some rewards are internal. Confidence, self-respect, clarity, peace. These are built quietly through commitment, not loudly through excitement. When meaning guides you, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop asking whether you feel like doing the work. You simply do it because it reflects who you are. This is education through identity. You are no longer someone chasing results, you are someone honoring your purpose. That identity creates stability. It protects you from quitting too soon and from being distracted by shortcuts that promise quick results but empty outcomes. Advice often focuses on how to stay inspired, but inspiration is fragile. Meaning is durable. Meaning survives boredom. Meaning survives failure. Meaning survives slow progress. It is what keeps you grounded when motivation leaves and doubt arrives. If you feel stuck, don't look for more motivation. Look for deeper meaning. Ask yourself why this matters to your life, your growth, your future. When the answer is clear, action becomes natural, and persistence becomes possible, even on the days when motivation is nowhere to be found. Transformation rarely announces itself. It doesn't arrive with instant results or dramatic changes that everyone can see. In the beginning, it is silent, private, and deeply internal. You wake up one day and nothing looks different, yet something feels different. Your thoughts are slightly calmer. Your reactions are slightly stronger. Your patience lasts a little longer. This is where most people get discouraged, because they are looking for proof outside while the real work is happening inside. Education teaches us that before behavior changes, mindset shifts. And before mindset shifts, awareness grows. In the early stages of transformation, doubt is loud. Your mind questions whether the effort is worth it, whether you are wasting time, whether this will ever work. This is not a sign that transformation is failing. It is a sign that it has begun. When old habits are challenged, they fight back. Advice that matters here is simple but difficult. Do not abandon a process just because it hasn't rewarded you yet. Rewards are delayed, but growth is already happening. Quiet transformation builds emotional strength. You learn how to sit with discomfort without running back to old patterns. You learn how to choose long-term progress over short-term relief. These lessons are not visible on the surface, but they shape your future deeply. People often admire visible success without realizing the invisible battles that created it. Your unseen discipline, your silent persistence, your private victories are laying the foundation for results that will later seem sudden to others. Transformation becomes visible only after it becomes stable. If change happens too fast, it rarely lasts. Slow change rewires your identity. You stop forcing new habits and start living them naturally. This is why patience is not passive. It is active trust in the process. Advice that truly helps is understanding that impatience can sabotage progress more than failure ever will. When you rush transformation, you skip the lessons meant to prepare you for maintaining it. There will be moments when you feel invisible in your effort, when no one acknowledges your growth, when you wonder if anyone would notice if you stopped. These moments are not meant to break you, they are meant to teach you independence. You learn to validate yourself. You learn to keep going without applause. That ability is powerful, because once you no longer depend on external recognition, your commitment becomes unshakable. When transformation finally shows itself, people will call it luck, overnight success, or sudden change. They will not see the days you showed up without excitement, the nights you questioned yourself, the times you chose progress over comfort. And that is okay. The goal of transformation is not to be seen, it is to be strengthened. Trust the quiet phase. Honor the invisible work, because everything meaningful in life grows in silence before it demands attention.